So for whatever reason, I decided to do some record organizing this week, and as you can see, I'm making a mess. There's even more over here I'm not even going to show you. But when it comes to organizing records, people have some pretty strong opinions on how it should be done. If you are the DJ who was always digital, you're doing it very different than we used to do it in the old days. Because you have these virtual crates and you can search for anything essentially. It's not a big deal. Records are different unless you have a real intricate database. I'm just not that organized, and my collection is just way too big to do an intricate database. I'll enter everything into Discogs so I know what I have, but other than that, no. But here's how a lot of people do it. Some people take all of their 12-inch singles and they organize them alphabetically. Then they take all their LPs and they organize them alphabetically, and they're done. Some people take all of their 12 inches, they organize them by BPM because that's what they're doing with them. They're only kind of focusing on the mix part. I'm going to try to do it like we did it back in the old days. When we went to clubs, a lot of times the clubs that I worked in had their own collection, and then I brought my own crate or two, which were kind of my signature songs that they didn't have, and that kind of made me unique that night because I would play those tracks. And other times when we were doing mobiles, they had their own collection, and this is how they did it at the mobile systems that I worked at with the records. They had, like, I don't know, a handful of categories of music. Like, one category was disco and R&B. So that was everything from the Bee Gees to Rick James to Kool and the Gang. If you wanted to play something that was kind of disco R&B, you dove into that stack and you found something and played it. There was a country section, pretty self-explanatory. There was a rock section. That was anything from Bob Seger to the Go-Go's, and even the Eurythmics ended up in rock for some weird reason. But that was kind of the dance rock stuff that we would dive into, and we'd find tracks and play. There was a slow dance section that's pretty self-explanatory. All the slow songs were there, pretty important for mobile systems, especially back then. There was a specialty category. That was Chicken Dance, Hokey Pokey, Happy Birthday, Daddy's Little Girl, all that kind of silly stuff. There was an oldies section. That was 50s and 60s. So anything from the Beatles to Bill Haley and the Comets to Chuck Berry, it was all there. Even Shout by Otis Day and the Knights. And then there was the new section. That was all the new music. Whatever came in, we stuck it in there. It was just top 40. So I'm thinking my collection's a lot more complicated than that. I've got some deep house, some hard house, some old classic DJ International house music stuff. The house stuff is going to be hard to do. But I'm also working on my 80s 12-inch collection, where I have things like anything from Aha to New Shoes to Nina Cherry. I mean, that gets weird. Do I put all these things in the same category? I don't think so. I think I'm going to divide things up a little bit. If it's like a Club E track, even if it's mainstream and it's a club track, I don't know, like Snap, CNC Music Factory, things like that, it's going to go in this other category, which is going to be like dance. It's going to go all the way from probably the very late 80s all the way through 2000. And then I'm going to have a freestyle category. That's exposés, CVB, all the freestyle stuff. Then I'm going to have an electro category, and that's going to be things like, Art of Noise and Debbie Deb and Trenier and that kind of stuff. And some of that might be freestyle. I don't know. I'm going to have to make these choices. Because what I want to do is when I'm ready to spin some tunes, and I'd like to do some live stream on this stuff, I want to be able to go back here to the rack and say, okay, tonight we're going to do 70s disco. And I'm going to have a 70s disco section. I'm going to pull it out, and that's going to be all those tracks. I don't have to go through anything alphabetically and cherry pick that stuff. It's already going to be cherry picked in a crate on the shelf or a section on the shelf. That's ultimately what I want to do. So it's taking time. And the hardest part are the mystery records, and I've got stacks of them where it's like, what is this? There's stuff I've gotten through other collections I've acquired somehow, or maybe I bought them on a crate dig and thought, this might be interesting. Is it or is it not interesting? Like, I don't know, Blue Mercedes, Love is the Gun. This is just one example of hundreds where I'm like, what is this? So what I'm going to do with those records is throw them on the turntable, check them out. If they're worth keeping, I'm keeping them. If not, I'm going to bring them to Goodwill. I'm just done. I got to get rid of some stuff that's, I got to trim the fat. I'm actually calling these deplorables in, I guess, in honor of our current events. I got some deplorables that are going to go. I got to figure out what those deplorables are and get rid of them. So I'm working on it. It's going to take me time. I'm only good for about 3 hours at a time, by the way. So, like, I'm tired now. I could stop and rest and then come back to this later. I started this very, very early this morning, and I stopped at about 8 in the morning, and I slept for 6 hours, and I'm back at it. I've been at it for about 3 hours, and I'm tired again. So, I don't know. Anyway, there's a quick video for you. I'm record organizing. How do you do it? Let us know in the comment section. Practice and enjoy.